Application forms for sharing accommodations must be completed 2 months in advance.
Hello, mic check. Hello. Hello, mic check. Hello. Hello, my name is Pramod. I'm very happy to give this today. I'm giving this test for practice. The 1 year program of the Master in Global Management is designed only for those who have the graduate degree in the thesis. It increases the temporary skill of new managers in an international capacity, something that recruiters are looking for more and more. The 1 year program of the Master in Global Management is designed only for those who have the graduate degree in the thesis. It increases the temporary skill of new managers in an international capacity, something that recruiters are looking for more and more. There is a tendency, especially in the popular press, to concentrate on the negative effects of immigration. In that context, this lecture listing the benefits it brings to more developed nations is more welcome. Also, it is delivered in a lively and assuming style. It is very easy to acquire bad habits such as eating too many sweets or too much food, or drinking too much fluid of any kind, or smoking, etc. The more we do a thing, the more we tend to like doing it. In later stage, if we do not continue to do it, we feel unhappy. This is called the force of habit, and the force of habit should be fought against. It seems that language appeared from nowhere since no other species has anything resembling human language. However, other animals do possess basic systems for perceiving and producing sounds that enable them to communicate. These systems may have been in place before the appearance of language. Changes in climate affect, for example, the plant and animal life of a given area. The presence of cold beds in North America and Europe, along with evidence of glaciation in these same areas, indicates that they must have experienced alternately warmer and colder climates than they now possess. Inadvertently, instead opted for a law or policy degree business. They were intimidated by the expectation of work experience. Business school admissions officers said the new drive to attract younger students was in part the result of a realization that they had inadvertently limited their applicant pool by requiring several years' work experience. Talented students who might otherwise have gone to business school instead opted for a law or policy degree because they were intimidated by the expectation of work experience. A national study into fraud by bookkeepers employed at small and medium-sized businesses has uncovered 65 instances of theft in more than 5 years, with more than $31 million stolen. Of the cases identified by the research, 56 involved women and 9 instances involved men. However, male bookkeepers who defrauded their employers stole 3 times on average the amount that women stole. Defrauded. A national study into fraud by bookkeepers employed at small and medium-sized businesses has uncovered 65 instances of theft in more than 5 years, with more than $31 million stolen. Of the cases identified by the research, 56 involved women and 9 instances involved men. However, male bookkeepers who defrauded their employer stole 3 times, on average, the amount that was stolen women.
Don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions.
Don't hesitate to email me if you have any question.
Please go straight and turn left to reach the library.
Please go straight and turn left to reach the library.
Many of the most popular courses are available online.
Many of the most popular courses are available online.
You have to submit projects by the end of this week.
You have to submit the project by the end of this week.
I will be in my office every day from 10 to 12.
I will be in my office every day from 10 to 12.
You should return books to the library before ending your term.
You should return book to the library before ending your term.
I won't be able to attend the lecture because I have a doctor appointment.
I won't be able to attend the lecture because I have doctor appointment.
Few people now are skeptical about alternative power sources such as wind power.
Few people are now nervous about wind power's spectacle. Thank you very much.
It's important that humans dispose of their waste in appropriate ways.
It's important that humans dispose their waste in proper way.
In our campus, prospective students have access to 13 college libraries.
In our campus, students have access to 13 libraries.
One solution is a system of electric cars to hire on demand.
One solution as a system of electric car is to hire a demand solution. Thank you very much. The picture gives information about the composition of the year. The picture is very beautiful and I have given 40 seconds to speak about this image. I can see 20% and 79%. Secondly, I can see oxygen, other gases and nitrogen. Moreover, I can see blue, yellow and purple. To conclude, the picture is very informative. The picture gives information about internet users who accessed via mobile phone. Internet users and a mobile phone. I can see 16 to 24. I can see 25 to 34. I can see 35 to. The picture gives information about internet users and mobile phone. I can see 16 to 24 and 25 to 34. I can see 35 to 44 and 45 to 54. I can see green graph. I can see 20 and 10 and I can see 30 and 40. Some elements are maximum and others are minimum. To conclude, the picture is very informative. The picture gives information about the woman in the labor force. I can see status. I can see 1900 to 2011. I can see not married and married. I can see 10, 20, 30 and 40. I can see percent in the labor force. The picture gives information about women in the labor force. I can see status 1900 to 2011. I can see not married and married. I can see percent in the labor force. I can see 30 and 40. I can see 50 and 60. Some elements are maximum and others are minimum. To conclude, the picture is very informative.
I've been thinking a lot about the world recently and how it's changed over the last 20, 30, 40 years. 20 or 30 years ago, if a chicken caught a cold and sneezed and died in a remote village in East Asia, it would have been a tragedy for the chicken and its closest relatives, but I don't think there was much possibility of us fearing a global pandemic and the deaths of millions. 20 or 30 years ago, if a bank in North America lent too much money to some people who couldn't afford to pay it back, and the bank went bust, that was bad for the lender and bad for the borrower, but we didn't imagine it would bring the global economic system to its knees for nearly a decade. This is globalization. This is the miracle that has enabled us to transship our bodies and our minds and our words and our pictures and our ideas and our teaching and our learning around the planet ever faster and ever cheaper. It's brought a lot of bad stuff, like the stuff that I just described, but it's also brought a lot of good stuff. A lot of us are not aware of the extraordinary successes of the Millennium Development Goals, several of which have achieved their targets long before the due date. That proves that this species of humanity is capable of achieving extraordinary progress if it really acts together and it really tries hard. But
World was the main topic of the lecture. He told about last 20, 30, 40 and years. He told about remote village relatives, global and millions. He told about bank, money, lender, economic and system. He also told about globalization. He told about body, mind, world, and planet. He also told about learning, good, bad, and development. He also told about date and progress. To conclude, the lecture was very informative.
Tomorrow's lecture has been cancelled. If today is Tuesday, then on which day is the lecture cancelled?
Wednesday, 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 Wednesday.
In a hospital, who is the person that can write prescriptions?
Doctor, doctor, nurses, nurse, doctor.
If any experiment is duplicated, how many times it is performed?
2 times, more than 2 times, several times, multiple times.
What do things become when they come to a halt?
Melt, melt, wet, warm, sweat.
What is the hard object in the center of peaches, apples and pears?
Beans, bean, bees, seed, seed, seed.
What is the device that shows the time of the day according to the shadow of sunlight?
Clock, daylight, clock, daylight.
Hi, my name is Bob Joss, and I'm the Dean of the Business School at Stanford University. On behalf of everyone from Stanford, we welcome you to this conference on education leadership. This is something relatively unheard of in higher education. I think it's where the business school gets together with the education school and talks about education leadership. The other purpose of Stanford University, of course, is to promote learning. The purpose of each school is for education to promote learning about education, and for the business school to promote learning about management. Most of the world's business services are delivered by management institutions that are for-profit managed institutions and not-for-profit managed institutions. We rely on management institutions that are chosen instruments in our society to get things done and implement services, particularly educational services, which are done generally by people on their own. However, they must realize that it is their own responsibility to achieve and accomplish. What others can do does not indicate what you are capable of. We want to make sure that here at Stanford, we're not only delivering the services, but demonstrating them too.
Researchers report that women find a man they see with an attractive woman more desirable than unattached men. That's according to a study in the journal Evolutionary Psychology. Researchers had two groups of female college students rate photos of men, all of whom had first been rated as being of average attractiveness. The first group of 148 women was shown pictures of those men with an attractive female. The subjects were told that the women in the photos were either a girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, cousin, or adopted sister. And the subjects rated the men with the girlfriends as more desirable than the men shown with partners described as being exes or relatives. The second study group of 97 students were shown average-looking men with an attractive woman who was described as definitely a girlfriend. And again, the women rated the men with the good-looking gals as more desirable than the single guys. Plus, the attached men were thought more likely to be more intelligent, trustworthy, humorous, wealthy, and attentive.
So, palm oil is the most widely produced oil crop currently. It's used in a wide range of industries, including food for biofuels and in soaps and shampoo. However, though sectors growing fast, and unfortunately palm oil grows in exactly the same environment as tropical rainforest. So, the use and the development of palm oil, the growth in the sector, is leading to wide-scale deforestation. What we are hoping to do is if we can come up an alternative we can slow the growth of the sector and therefore stop the wide-scale deforestation in South Asia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My theme for this session is Convergence Technology Change and Business Practice. This is somewhat dear to my heart, in that I have spent much of the last 15 years involved in various aspects of technology and their impact on business, across a broad spectrum, from applications of signal processing in manufacture right through to the use of utilization data and diary applications, to improve the time utilization of the sales force.
The earlier chocolate was quite unpalatable. They used to add things to it to make it more palatable, so for the early chocolate, they didn't know how to extract all the cocoa fat from it, so it was, or could be quite greasy, and if you made it as a drink you'd have this sort of scum on the top. So they used to try and add things to it, like starch and things, to make it a more palatable product. So there were a lot of scandals around the kind of things they were adding to chocolate in the 19th century. So by the sort of 1870s, 1880s, there are people like Cadbury's saying, "Our chocolate is absolutely pure. We have this new process, the Van Houten process, which now extracts all this horrible fat that we can use to make eating chocolate. Now we have a pure product."
My best piece of advice would be to join like-minded groups. So, for example, if you're into dance, join a dance group. And you can find a lot of these on, something like Meetup or some sort of app. But you want to find groups that are similar to you, and then you can build a friendship from there. Because typically, if you're interested in something, those might be those type of people that you want to build a friendship with. One of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou, I think, can apply to friendships. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. So when you're building friendships with people, they're going to show you initially who they are. So trust that. And I'm a big proponent of trusting your instincts and investing in friendships that make you feel comfortable from the outset.
The U.S. obesity epidemic continues to worsen. The latest reports show that 40% of U.S. women are obese, and American teenagers are also continuing to put on weight. The two reports from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that efforts to encourage Americans to lose weight, at least to stop putting on more weight, are having little effect. Overall, 38% of U.S. adults are obese, and 17% of teenagers are as well. People are considered overweight when their BMI, or body mass index, hits 25, and they are considered obese when it gets to 30. People who are obese have higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, some cancers, arthritis, and Alzheimer's disease. Obesity has decreased a little among the youngest children, the researchers noted, but it's still going up among teens.
Early jazz musicians were active in many cities and towns throughout the southern United States. It was New Orleans, with its long tradition of African American music, that was the home of many fathers of jazz. After World War I, the musicians of New Orleans joined the general northward migration of African Americans. The first great national center of jazz was Chicago. From there, the music entered the mainstream and even gave its name to the decade of the 1920s. Jazz, blending African American folk roots with elements of popular music and European classical traditions, has been called America's
The complex process inside a leaf takes energy from the sun and uses it to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugars. During this process, photosynthesis, plants convert light energy into chemical energy. All leaves carry out photosynthesis in basically the same way. First, the pores on the leaf's outer skin open up and take in molecules of carbon dioxide. Water absorbed by the roots is transported upward through the plant, and it enters the leaf through its stem. Carbon dioxide and water, these are the raw materials for photosynthesis. Once carbon dioxide and water are present, photosynthesis can
Yeast. They already participate in producing some of the most popular pain-killing substances around, beer and wine. Now, scientists have engineered yeast that can also make one of the most powerful analgesics, morphine. Their work is in the journal Nature Chemical Biology. Opiates like morphine and codeine are essential for treating severe pain. But making these meds isn't easy. All are derived from opium poppies, and tens to hundreds of thousands of tons are needed to meet global needs. The crops can also be affected by climate, disease, and even political turmoil in the countries where the plants are grown, which further limits commercial production. To get around these potential challenges, researchers have turned to yeast, an organism that can be grown easily on industrial scales. The scientists inserted into yeast cells a handful of genes isolated from the opium poppy. These genes encode the enzymes the plants use to produce opiates. After tweaking the system to adjust the relative amounts of the enzymes, the researchers could feed their yeast a precursor chemical called thebaine and get pure morphine in return. The yeast can't yet make opiates from scratch, but with a bit more effort and a few more enzymes, yeast may produce painkillers that are prescription strength.
If you have a dog, you know you gotta walk it. But do you know how it walks? Well, if you have no idea which foot Fido puts forward when, you're in good company. Because according to a study published in the journal Current Biology, even places like natural history museums get it wrong half the time. Studies published back in the late 1800s showed that all four-legged animals walk the same way. They start by moving forward their left hind leg, followed by the left front leg. Then they repeat the sequence on the right-hand side. Different animals differ in the timing of their steps. The reason they walk that way is for stability. Lifting one leg at a time leaves 3 feet on the ground, forming a nice stable tripod to stand on. But not everyone seems to know that, even folks who should. Scientists looked at 300 depictions of animals walking, in museums, anatomy textbooks, even children's toys, and they found that nearly half the time these images get it wrong. For a toy, that kind of inattention to detail might mean that Rex has a tendency to roll over. But for museums to mess up like that, they just don't have a leg to stand on.
When we lie, our brains work hard to make sure we get the story right and come off as truthful. Law enforcement officials try to tap into that effort, for example with polygraphs, to find out if a suspect is telling the truth. But such stress tests are beatable and not admissible in court. Now comes a report that handwriting tests could be a competitor to the familiar but unreliable lie detector. The study appears in the Journal of Applied Cognitive Psychology. Researchers at Israel's Haifa University worked with 34 volunteers who wrote truthful and false paragraphs on paper using a wireless electronic pen and a pressure-sensitive tip. A computerized system measured pressure and stroke duration both on the paper and in the air. Spatial measures such as stroke length, height, and width were also tracked. And the scientists found significant differences in pressure and spatial measures in deceptive statements compared with the truth. The investigators say they need to validate this initial result and compare the technique with polygraphs and other lie detection tools. But perhaps in the future, even a written claim of innocence could turn out to be a de facto confession.
Some young people find city life rather stressful. Children start producing words before they are able to walk. Participating in the work placement is beneficial to all students. Companies' projects must adapt to the general data protection regulations.